welcome to another edition of Connectors Club. Today I have Greg Aidala with me, and very happy to have Greg in the program. I've known for a while, but for those who may not know Greg, so MC, comedian, actor, lector, it goes by many titles, but and then a new one that it's stepping into, which we'll talk about in a few seconds. But welcome, Greg, to the series of interviews on really talking about networking and how people that enjoy networking and people that get that line, oh, you must know everybody. So and I'm used to that as well, and it's I always say I don't, but I'd like to, and I think you're the same type of a person in that regard, like to make connections with folks and so on. But I wanted to ask you, welcome again, and then ask you just what do you like about networking and relationship building, and why is that in your DNA? What do you enjoy about that?
Well, thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me. It's good to see you, my old friend. This is what I enjoy about it because my family has been doing business in Albany for 78 years, and growing up around a family business and small business, right? So it's very hands-on, and I grew up with all these great stories. My grandfather came from Italy, and the office walls are like a museum. And we met really great entrepreneurs and people from residents from Albany. And it was always about storytelling and everyone saying, "Oh, you know this person, check that person out," or "Here, go there." So I grew up with this, and I said, "Oh, all right." So it's a natural, it's innate to be a person who connects the dots and to push positivity. In other words, so it's a team effort, so everyone's working together. And I it's such a beautiful thing because we've talked about this before in years past, that when you make a connection between two people that have never met, and I know you do that on your shows, there's so much adulation for oneself that you made this happen for two strangers, and now they're friends or their ideals match, and they can help each other fundraise for charitable causes. I think that's what God wants. I mean, truly, I think that is using your gifts, no matter what your occupation is, to do for people. And it's just, you're always learning something. And I think what's key, and I'm like this to the day, I wake up every morning wanting to learn more than one thing. And so I'm interacting with people every day, albeit differently nowadays, but I'm always learning. And I think if you keep an open mind to, no matter what, even if you don't agree with somebody, at least be open and civil. And that's when true connections made. Because you can think the same way as somebody else all the time,
Mhm.
and that's a connection. But when you really make a connection with someone that maybe things don't align, that's when it's true connection. And I feel that true friendships can really come from that, if it's balanced on both sides, and both people approach it that way, and it's authentic, right? Because the world's screaming for authenticity. I come from that, and I like being around other people that do that. So I really miss it, being in person, and especially my career, which I put 20-year career on hold for this mission. And that you've got, every weekend I was in a different city or a different place, or here in the capital region, with my showcase, or raising money for foundations. And 2020 was a tough year for everybody around the globe. And but on the flip side, it's really great to see people like Zoom and interact and still connecting. It's very important, and I'm glad people dug deep and are still be able to get over these hurdles and still be together.
That's well, two things out of what you just said. One thing is how the question is going to be how do you do it in the age of pandemic, COVID, the new abnormal, as I love, and you started to speak to that. So
Yeah.
then the other is I want to get into what when you said your mission, what you're doing now, which seems like a natural progression from someone who is a networker and a relationship builder. But in the digital world, getting on Zoom calls, that's easy. There are still some things in public, but it's later. I know you did the UMC, the annual fundraiser for the Mohawk Hudson Humane Society. So, and that took a modern approach because you couldn't have everybody in person. like I've been involved with the Center for Disability telethons in the past, and
Yeah.
just know how many people are chunked in a room. So
Yeah.
possible. So that's kind of a new the way we learn to
Mhm.
communicate, and not so much network. So what have you done in that regard, or how have you seen this as an opportunity? You started to speak about it a little bit, just with
Yeah.
this new technology
Yeah.
that we have to have.
So it's the foundations and charities I've worked with for, raise as a professional fundraiser, for 15 years now. Excuse me, 16 years. Excuse me, we're in 2021, and the what's really great is, these trusted charities have a great audience, and I think this is very important, and they're willing to follow them into these new ways, as hard it is not to show up in person and be part of these at beautiful venues, within the capital region, in Albany and Colony and Saratoga, that have beautiful, beautiful venues in history, and everyone followed, suit. And they had crews come in to live stream, and very interactive, right? And that's the best part. So you're removed, but you can be interactive, and that's really important, because life, need people. It's that connection. And it's so great to see the response of people coming out, still supporting. I mean, that Mohawk Hudson Humane Society raised we did it was like just under 50 minutes. Is that your dog again?
Speaking of
Talking
animals,
because they heard about, speaking of animals,
yeah,
Mohawk Hudson Humane Society. Look at
yeah.
that. That's perfect, right? And what's your pet's name? I'm sorry.
Well, that's the Morkie named Jenna, and
That's
she's
Jenna. So
she's my
Jenna
protector.
knows what we're talking about. So
Yep.
she's like supporting it. That's awesome. Um, that and the spirit and the heart of the capital region is so charitable, and it's really great to be a part of it all these years. That in 45 minutes they raised $65,000.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
it's fantastic. So, and it's just like anything else in life, right? You have to get used to it. There's change. The hardest thing to do sometimes is change. It's my grandfather clock going off, so excuse me about that. Um, but I think, coming through 2020, and with these new ways to connect, I think it's going to be an even bigger celebration, because people have stayed connected, to when we can physically be in the same room again. That will be this whole sense of joy, right? Like, wow, hey, we're back, but that momentum hasn't left. So it's we should be very thankful, to, as lonely as this pandemic can be, and as history has taught us, even from the Spanish flu, how we can stay connected and stay grounded and sane as much as possible, and know that everyone's still here for each other, and still be able to share and like things that we feel very authentic towards and passionate towards. So I hope that answers your question, because I've been part of, as you have as well, numerous Zoom interviews, meetings, and these way to stay connected, and it's just great. I mean, it really is. But I do look for. I can't wait. I cannot wait to where, we just get back to, being in the same room with each other, because that energy is, you can't beat that energy. What's better than positive energy? Nothing.
Um, so one of the things I think that's come of this is you talk about this maintaining connectivity, and I think empathy
Yeah.
too and it's one of the, because I've from the different hour calls that I host, and you get deeper into some industries and behind the scenes and what's really going on through the pandemic, and how difficult it might be for a middle school teacher, and what's ahead. I had a captive audience for 15 minutes with him, explaining everything they had to go through in order to start school the next week. And then someone on the hospitality side, when they go back to events, what actually happens in the kitchen, you just take that for granted.
Right.
So, but the other thing are the sillier things, where my dog's going nuts. and your grandfather clock's going off, and that's totally fine. Like
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to lose anybody, in this interview because, oh, I can't believe they didn't mute the dog, because we're so used to seeing that and seeing what's around and
Yeah.
getting a little perspective into people's
Yeah.
lives, when they're not
Yep.
all perfect, when you're at some event, at a mixer or something.
Mhm.
So that, and I think that the humanity comes out in that, and it's,
Yeah.
thank God, that's and maybe that's part of this lasting so long. We had no other choice, but I think that's a strong thing to come out of this. And to your point about what it'll be like when you get to actually see people in person, it's the other funny thing about this too is I've built some relationships with people I've never met. And there's one of the interviews I did in this series is a gentleman that I've known for a while, but only through LinkedIn. I've never, and then he's been on my calls, so I've gotten to know him personally. Interview, and I even said to him during it, like, we've never even met each other. I might, meet you and say, wow, you're a lot taller than I thought you were. I have no idea.
Yeah.
So, but because of the length of this, that's happened, and that's a good thing. It's not that means that we've actually gotten some deeper relationships out of this. This isn't just talk, and it's
Right.
in some ways it's a different format
Mhm.
where you'll go to a breakfast event and you're really talking to these two people, but in one of these types of calls it's just a different format where you can't just go to one person just talking, because everybody's talking. You're really listening to one person, and when everybody's listening and everybody comments here and there, but you don't get those little pockets of I'm really getting in the weeds now when you get into networking. But say you have happy hour.
Mhm.
I think I talked about this in one of the other interviews, maybe, but 5 o'clock, like, okay, 10 of us, we're going to meet at so and so bar at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Not everybody shows up at 5. Not everybody gets there and has one person talk and 9 people listen. You're all getting your little pockets of things, and then some people leave early, some people don't come. So
Yeah.
by the time you're done, you've had a few great conversations, but you didn't talk to everybody. But when you get into the Zoom format, you're listening to everybody.
Yeah.
So it's got a different dynamic to it. It has to, just functionally, it has to. But
Yeah, I think to your point, if I could just expound on what the humanity, right? I think that the world was an out of control train going 1,000 miles per hour. We were losing touch with ourselves, our family, our community. There was no empathy. It's everyone's espousing negativity, lies. They don't want to learn about anybody. They're headline readers, and they just tag on and go and want to chop everyone down. Well, now there's some humility. And the good thing is, and look, people know I'm faith oriented, and as are you, and that's how we first met. That if you don't have humility, and if you weren't raised with that, man, that can bite you back. It really can come around and bite you. And I'm not perfect, but boy, oh boy, oh boy. And I think that to your point, the dog barking, my clock going off. This is life. This is the beautiful thing of, you know, I'm a positive person to where if things or chips are down and it's the worst it can be, it can only get better and go up. That's how I felt. That's how I was raised. So, you know, coming, through this and with and COVID, that there's a hard reset for the world. So as hard as it is, and I know it because look, my business was affected, my family's business was affected. I've had friends that lost their livelihoods. It's not, this is real. However, we have a chance, and at least we haven't had one in the history of the world in 3 or 4 years, to do a 180, a hard reset, and go forward. Use our talents. We have all these things, and let's put it in motion so it works for everybody and community. Nothing's going to be perfect. It's not always going to work. That's just the reality of life. But I think this is a really unique time in the history of life to where we can not only get back on track with ourselves and try to commit to community and family again, but also be a beacon and an inspiration for future generations.
well, the other thing, and you touched on it a couple of times, is not to hold back on story here. So we talk about how your life's changing and what you're stepped into and what you're looking to do now. It
Mhm.
seems, from a networking perspective, which is what a lot of this conversation is about, seems like a natural. So for someone who's well connected, who likes to build relationships, who wants to
Mhm.
meet more people, wants to understand how other folks tick, and it isn't just headline reading; it's actually And if
Yeah.
there is a disagreement, understand why there isn't an agreement
Hmm.
instead of, oh, I can't have anything to do with that because it's not
Right.
my thing. And that's what your venture now is into. Like I said, natural for networking. So from that perspective, it makes total sense when I saw your news, and I'll let you explain what your next venture is, or what you're looking to be doing or have been doing these days.
Yeah. So, after, so briefly is, we've been doing business in Albany for 78 years, and people know where we are. We're very proud that the city renamed our block Aidala Way, but we're in the West Hill. It's a very tough neighborhood. Great people still live there, but it's known to where violence has come for decades. Okay, and it's gotten worse in the last 8 years. It just has. And we've been out there. They trust us. I've spoken to all residents, white, black, Asian, Puerto Rican, that know and trust us. Um, they I've spoken to drug dealers. They respect us, and I tell them, I said, it's not our business. I don't subscribe to it. Don't sell on property. Don't sell to children. If I see it, it's me calling the police. But please, and we try to like be there and listen and say, look, and empathize with their upbringing. I've seen, and I often invite people for field trips down to there. So crime has come in waves, and everyone knows about the city of Albany. There's been that mass exodus to the suburbs. It's happened. And it's the administration. I truly feel, but I think things can get better. So 3 years ago, the first murder of 2018 occurred in front of our family business, and the one stray bullet missed my father's office by 7 feet, and it hit the daycare next door to us. And thank the Lord, the children were sleeping, so everyone was down. And so I, the way I was raised, and forgive me because I am naive, and I was certainly then. I said I would like to sit down with City Hall, right? So I wrote an email and I introduced ourselves, and I said, we've been here at that point 75 years. Is this possible that we could sit down, my father and I? We have some ideas and how we, I should say, we mentor the area, how we speak to residents and businesses, and it's always an open door policy. It's how my grandfather was, and so I didn't hear anything for 3 months. I didn't get one response back from the city of Albany. And to me, that's not what community is about at all. I don't care where you live on the planet. That should not happen. And so I made a passion piece. I got some film crews together, and I just told the story of what happened. And I interviewed my friend who runs the daycare, and it was about a 4.5 minute piece, and it took off. It landed me in the front page of the Times Union, ABC, CBS. It picked up nationally. It was viewed over 20,000 times within like a day or two or something of that. I can't remember the exact metrics. Forgive me. And then people really started coming out and letting me know how difficult it is to get through, and it doesn't feel very civic minded. And then, and because there's trust, and that's very important in any type of relationship. Obviously, business and personal, it's trust. So over the years, the media here in Albany, I should say, trusts me because I'm only stating facts. I'm not, you know, I'm not going to, espouse erroneous information. It doesn't make sense. I'm protecting, the safety of my family and the residents. So they would come and interview me. And then what led to this, which I'll get to, is last summer, as it happened in the nation where, violence escalated. And here it was to record amount. I mean, in Albany, there was 130 shootings, 17 homicides. There's real lack of clarity and discourse, civil discourse, and even people being accountable to the residents. So when she said that, the mayor had said, if you're hit by a stray bullet, in print, she said this in the Times Union, if you're hit by a stray bullet and you're with someone that it was intended for whatever reason, and you're hit for it for whatever reason, then you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that made me really nervous. So I would really start spending nights down at the in the West Hill, talking with people. Then the murders occurred again on our block, and we were right down there speaking with them, talking with the family of people when this was happening to them. You know, I couldn't imagine what they're going through. I couldn't imagine that, because if the wrong place is being where you should be, what's the right place? So I would say to the, you know, I specifically one young man whose brother was murdered last summer on the corner. And I went to him and he said, I don't want to retaliate because I know where it's going to lead me. And I said, great, that's a really good start. And I said, if you're feeling anything, you need to talk to anybody and you can't, you feel scared, come and talk to me. So I prayed on it and prayed on it. And I said, you know, I think I'm going to take a big risk and run for mayor. So Albany can be the beacon again, and it helps the entire capital region because there's a lot of negativity in this region, and I don't understand it. There's too many great people and great businesses, and they deserve that voice of positivity. So I have friends that are worked on hundreds of campaigns, and we started working on this late summer. And since then I've met with people of all departments, residents, business owners, and I've had meetings via Zoom or in person safely, 2 a week. And last week I announced to be my candidacy to be the 76th mayor of Albany. And it's really about safety and cleanliness, bringing businesses in to Albany, building morale, having clear communication. And I'm entering as an independent. It's not about party politics because stray bullets don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat. They don't. And I just think that way. I just want to. I'm a neutral person. I was that way before I entered this. Everyone who knows me, I've been an independent since I was 18. I voted for Democrats in my life. I voted for Republicans. I just feel that there's so much heat and everything's getting lost in these like, keyboard warrior wars online that I just think I know in my heart that I remain neutral and I want to work with everybody who has a vision to make this region better so the rest of the country can look to this as a beacon and want to come here and live and work and play. I want to be that person to say, hey, and connect people like you do. You know, I'm a great manager, and it's 12 noon, as you can tell by my grandfather clock too. I don't know, is that it's like the Jeopardy 30 seconds. It's like wrap it up. But so I made the decision, and I think that you know, and that's the beauty of what I've been introduced to with this role, and I'm meeting with great people. In other words, I'll give you an example. So I have meetings during the week. I have a meeting Saturday coming up, and they they own a restaurant, and they reached out to me, and then they said, "Are," and we set it up, and they said, "Are you okay with me inviting other business owners to meet with us?" And I said, "Absolutely." That I need to listen because there's not enough listening going on in this world. I feel there's just too many people just firing away without really hearing. And you want to know something, Paul? Every email that I've received, and it's been great, the amount of support that I've received in the past week, 1 week from today, from donations rolling in, people put me on your email list. What can we do to help? We like your message of neutrality, working together. You know what they love most because it's authentic me and is every email I send back, I say to people, hey, you know, if you have any further questions, let me know. I offer 30-minute Zooms or phone calls because some people don't have the technology. And I always write, I'm accessible. Every single email I get back, they said, thanks, thank you just for saying you're accessible. I had a call this morning with a resident that called a West Hill resident that knew our business when he was a child walking around, called my father at the business. I was out at a meeting, left his name and number. I called him this morning. We talked for 45 minutes. And he said, I've tried because where he lives and he's tried to help and you know, get in touch with City Hall. He said, you're the only politician to ever call me back. And I said, well, I'm not a politician. I'm always going to be Greg. I assure you that, but I'm on your side. And he said, no, you made my day. He goes, Just by you phoning me and then trusting me with your number and info. I said, of course. I said, I do. This is what the definition of community is. I know it. That's how you feel. And I know that's how people that you surround yourself with. And it's really great to see like someone like yourself, Paul, you know, my connections with deep roots in Albany in business and my business alone, and to see what you and your friends do. This is what should be celebrated. So the real definition of community comes to surface, and I think that will truly lead to trust, safety, accountability, positivity, and people truly working together. Because and I'll end it this way because I really think we're in a unique time here in life moving forward, and I hope we don't collectively blow it because it's not going to be perfect. There's going to be mistakes, but resilience is what you need in life. And I think moving forward, we can really make a difference together.
Well, I talk about this when I do this interview series about networking and ask people their, why they like to do it. But I realized even in the first interview that it's really networking sounds more like a business task. Like this, I'm going to do networking tonight. Like this is my mission. When in reality, if it's really done well and it's going to be lasting, it's relationship building.
Yeah.
But that's not just a business task. And I don't go to events for this is a business thing and this is a fun thing. In my business, people that are clients and people I've worked with are friends, and
Yeah.
people that are friends with, I can do work with too. I will never need two phones, one for
Yeah.
work and one, So I think in the relationship building in this instance, politics is business. It's an industry,
Yep.
if you want to call it that,
Mhm.
but it's that that's a different extension of relationship building. A lot of the conversation that I'll have in this series is talking about how that works with business, but
Mhm.
this you use word community, which is I think takes it even deeper, and that's another way of explaining or really not explaining, but having that permeate and go out. You going out into the world to I'm gonna make a networking connection with this person to achieve this task. No, you build a relationship, and that may not turn into anything financial for years. It may never, but it may just be a connection you make with another person, or you connect them with other folks. It's just the relationship building and the community building. I think these are all to use positivity. That's what I do it for. I
Yeah.
totally enjoy it. I said to you as we were prepping for this, I like if I can connect people and something comes out of that, that's even better for me than me getting a client. I just feel better about that. Like,
Yeah.
that's what
I'm
keeps me going with it.
I'm 100% with you because that's what it should be. It shouldn't be really about self-interest. And to your point, when I, get invited to, well, before COVID, you get invited to these mixers and everything, and my schedule allows, I show up. Because because I have a long memory, right? So if I, if I come in contact with someone, it says, oh, I'm looking for someone for marketing or someone, oh, geez, hey, you know what? I know a guy named Paul Hook, or send him that way. Or, oh, really looking for, oh, that person, because I know it. So it's a beautiful thing. It really truly is. So and that's, with this new role, Paul, it's what I'm looking forward to over the next 9 months is to look, I'm in it to win it. If I don't, I hope it's a positive mind shift that I can, display to the region at large that, it really, we need to work together. I mean, Albany be the beacon for the entire region and really stretch our arms out and work with Rensselaer and Troy, work with Schenectady, work with Saratoga. These are beautiful parts, and it just seems you can't get out of each other's way and you fight each other. Like, we have this gorgeous region that if we really came together, you'd be the size of Austin, Texas.
Mhm.
And and who wouldn't want that?
Yeah.
Maybe we can just put our differences aside. And if you really are about forgiveness and uh, and really the true sense of community, at least how I feel at my heart, good things can only come of it.
Mhm. Yeah, great. Well, this has been fantastic and really, gets into some pretty deep things, but that's what we need to hear that. It's not, so much of it is Twitter and headline news and quick little snippets and snap judgments based on the way a headline was written, and that's not really what this whole story is. So it's good to go a little deeper,
Yeah.
and and to go beyond something that might in some instances maybe a light conversation just about networking techniques and how you get to meet people and so on. But going beyond it, what's the the depth there is what's the reason for it. So
Yeah.
is it to make more money, or is it really to have some sort of connection? And I appreciate the depth that you went with it, because I know you personally that's important to you. And,
Yeah.
with the mission you're on now and just in general anyway. So I do appreciate your time to give me your thoughts on this and let everybody know what you're up to these days. So
Well, thank you, Paul. No, I appreciate the time. It's good. It's always good to see you, and I hope for the day that we can see each other in person again and raise a pint. 100%, and keep doing what you're doing, Paul. You're a very valuable resource to the region, um, and I love how you are this magnet for other great people. So keep doing that, and I hope we can talk soon. I mean, my line of communication is always open.
great. I appreciate your comments, and I will send that money over via PayPal to thank you.
Yeah, right. That's great. Yeah,
Right.
please do.
I appreciate it. We'll catch up very soon. Thanks again.
Thanks, Paul. Take care.
Yep. You too.
All right, bye-bye.